So this is going to be a topic that a lot of you know already about because we're talking about proarginine, which if you've been associated with Synergy for any length of time, you've probably heard of proarginine. It is, I think you could say it's a cardiovascular health product. That's kind of the foundation of this product. I would say it's the premier cardiovascular health product in the world. And we're going to talk about it initially from a cardiovascular health angle. What it is all about is blood flow enhancement, nitric oxide, uh, because it enhances blood flow, because of the nitric oxide production, you get enhanced nutrient delivery throughout the body. So it can actually enhance the effect of some of the other products that you're taking. And it also has this great sports performance angle, which I'm a huge fan of. I love taking ProArgi as part of my workout, as part of my exercise. Going way back to the beginning of ProArgi. Back in 1998, mostly Dr. Ignaro was the kind of the key guy in the discovery of nitric oxide as a signal molecule in the body. And because of his discovery as of nitric oxide as a signal molecule that enhanced blood flow and impacted cardiovascular health, he and two other people that were involved in the same study were awarded the Nobel Prize, which is a big deal. Nobel Prize is basically the top contribution to a certain field of science. There's multiple Nobel Prizes that are awarded each year. But within the field, within this field of science, it was the #1 discovery for the year, the most important discovery for the year. And the reason why it was so important was because of its impact on cardiovascular health. And this discovery is really what spurred the research into L-arginine, the research into other molecules like L-arginine that can help enhance blood flow, the research into beets even. If you look at dietary nitrates, any molecule that enhances nitric oxide production in the body, it stems from this discovery. And it's had a huge impact. If you look at what Synergy is, what we are as a company, if it weren't for this discovery, Synergy wouldn't exist. It really would not. You had Dan Higginson back in the day starting a company and getting involved with these cardiovascular doctors, basically, that were working on this using nitric oxide boosting ingredients to try to improve people's cardiovascular health, improve recovery after cardiovascular problems, that type of thing. And we ended up with a situation where Dan Higginson basically had the opportunity to work with these guys to create a product that is truly life-changing for so many people from a cardiovascular health perspective. That's what put Synergy on the map. That's what created Synergy as a company. And because this product is so functional and because this product is so powerful, the company's been around since then and growing for, over 20 years. So it's a really it's the story of nitric oxide. It's the story of ProArgi, and it really is the story of Synergy as how it began and what it is as a company. So what is nitric oxide? Um, as I said before, it's a signaling molecule. We use nitric oxide in various different parts of our body. Our immune system relies on nitric oxide as a signaling molecule, but we're going to focus on cardiovascular health. We're going to focus on endothelium. You have basically blood vessels, arteries going throughout your body, and they're kind of like muscles. They basically are a smooth muscle. They're a type of a muscle, and the interior lining is called the endothelium. And that interior lining interacts with nitric oxide. That nitric oxide signals that interior lining to let that smooth muscle that creates the arteries, that creates the blood vessels, to relax. And that allows for enhanced blood flow. So what's the role of arginine in all this? Arginine is one of 3 amino acids in what's called the urea cycle. Um, all 3 of these amino acids kind of can interconvert with each other. The amino acids are arginine, citrulline, and ornithine. In terms of blood flow, arginine is the active molecule that actually interacts with an enzyme called eNOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase. That's the enzyme that creates nitric oxide from arginine. Interestingly, the byproduct of that reaction is citrulline. So arginine interacts with eNOS. It creates nitric oxide, which signals the body to have the blood vessels expand, increases blood flow, reduces blood pressure because you're expanding and dilating those arteries. In the process, you're also creating citrulline, which can then be recycled and recreate arginine through that urea cycle that I talked about before. And so you get this consistent application of arginine into the body that allows for enhanced blood flow for a fairly extended period of time. There's some things I want to talk about with nitric oxide, what nitric oxide is. And one of the things I want to talk about is inhibitors of the eNOS pathway, inhibitors of arginine interacting with eNOS. And ADMA is an arginine derivative. And when ADMA levels rise, it actually blocks arginine from interacting with eNOS. So we don't really want high levels of ADMA in our body because that blocks the eNOS pathway. It blocks the nitric oxide synthesis. And then if we have high levels of oxidative stress in our body, there's another enzyme called myeloperoxidase, excuse me, which can actually oxidize the nitric oxide and create nitration, which can actually cause some negative side effects with our body. So there's a lot more to overall health than just putting in arginine and creating nitric oxide. And we're going to talk a little bit about why ProArgi is really important as a total formulation. We know arginine is super important for heart health. It's super important for cardiovascular health. But what is it about ProArgi that makes it special? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. And I want you guys to remember this ADMA pathway that blocks arginine converting to nitric oxide. And I want you to also remember the myeloperoxidase, which oxidizes nitric oxide and creates nitration of other enzymes within the body that actually cause problems with HDL, oxidation of HDL, oxidation of LDL cholesterol, causes negative effects as far as our metabolic health goes. So again, this is an image showing the difference between a normal blood vessel and a dilated blood vessel. And when I have the dilated blood vessel, the important thing is I'm increasing blood flow. I am decreasing blood pressure. I'm increasing the body's ability to deliver nutrients, oxygen where they need to go, and also improving the body's ability to eliminate waste. And this is actually really important. This is one of the reasons why when it comes to ProArgi, it's such a good sports nutrition product. For me, when I'm exercising, and really this is anybody when they're exercising, there is a limiting factor that happens by the buildup of metabolites. Your body is using carbohydrates, it's using glycogen, it's using sugar, it's creating ATP, it's using ATP. So you're basically building and breaking down energy molecules all the time when you're exercising. This is one of the reasons why your muscles start to fail is because of buildup of these byproducts of these metabolic processes. So if I sit here and I use my bicep over and over and over again, I mean, right now I'm curling air so I could do it for a really long time. But if I put like a 10-pound weight in my hand, eventually I get tired. And that's because of the buildup of these metabolites. My bicep is not meant to work forever. it does eventually get tired. It has a specific type of muscle tissue that it's good for lifting things, it's good for carrying things, but after a while it will fatigue. I can train it and delay that point of fatigue. I can become stronger, but removing these waste products is actually really important to allowing it to continue working for longer. One of the things that people don't think about with cardiovascular health is if my bicep is getting tired after a period of time exercising, what about my heart? My heart is a muscle. It's a special type of muscle that is actually designed to have much, much, much better endurance, but it's still doing these same types of contractions over and over and over again every second to pump blood. So eliminating waste products is actually really, really, really important for heart function. Delivering nutrients is really, really, really important for heart function. Oxygen delivery is important for heart function. When we talk about other molecules that are really well known for helping with heart function, things like CoQ10, for example. The reason why it's really important is because it's facilitating those muscle contractions. It's making those muscle contractions better. It's making that transfer of energy, the creation of energy better. So mitochondrial efficiency, electron transfer, those types of things become very important when you're looking at cardiovascular function as well as skeletal muscle function. I can feel proarginine working in my body because of the instant effects that I get as far as increased blood flow, increased nutrient delivery. And this is something that people don't think about. I'm feeling proarginine. When I take it, I can work out better. I know that's the case. And I'm 100% confident that anybody that tries proarginine that uses it in the context of a workout will feel its effects right away. I want you guys to think about what that means for cardiovascular health now. You don't feel it right away when you're making your heart work better. Your heart is a muscle, just like all the other muscles in your body. And the same mechanisms with proarginine that are allowing your muscles in your arms and your legs, whatever, to function better during a workout are also allowing your heart to function better, to function more easily, to not have to work as hard. And this is actually really, really, really a powerful thing to think about because I don't feel it working for my heart. I know based on the literature that it's working for my heart. I know based on all of these studies that I can read about L-arginine, about proarginine itself, that it is working for my heart. But the fact that I can take it and feel it in my muscles should build belief that it is working for my entire body, for my overall health, for my entire cardiovascular system. So again, one of the things on this slide that's actually pretty important to think about in terms of overall health, when people have excess oxidative stress, poor metabolic health, when they've had certain types of injury, cardiovascular injury, things like that, you can actually have an increase in ADMA levels. And you also get an increase in ADMA levels as you age. ADMA levels, this is that molecule that blocks arginine's function in terms of producing nitric oxide. So the more ADMA I have, the less nitric oxide I'm building from arginine. And this is one of those things that makes supplementing with proarginine really important because just day one, adding L-arginine into my system, I'm pushing that balance in favor of L-arginine again, and I'm allowing my body to create nitric oxide. I'm allowing my body to have that enhanced blood flow. I'm allowing all of those beneficial effects of enhanced blood flow. Whereas before, just through dietary L-arginine and whatever my body has, I'm not getting enough to overcome the ADMA that's in my system. Now, there's also some components of L-arginine that can reduce ADMA levels, that can reduce inflammation and things like that, reduce gut inflammation, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And that helps with arginine function as well. But this is a critical thing because day one, when I take proarginine, I'm going to impact that ratio of L-arginine to ADMA in a positive way. And I'm going to give my body the opportunity to start creating nitric oxide that's going to impact my health in a positive way. So this is a study that was done, several years back in the Hughes Center, where we were just comparing ProArgi to other products on the market. And we're just looking at Cmax of different products, 13 different products compared to ProArgi, and looking for nitric oxide levels. This is a single dose. So one dose, not taking it over time. And again, over time, ProArgi builds up in your system, does other things to your body to make it work more efficiently. So the more you use ProArgi, the better off you are. But even with just a single use, first time use, it still works better than any other L-arginine product on the market. And we've tried a lot. This just is a range, best competitor to one of the not so great competitors. We've tried a lot. We've tested a lot, and ProArgi is just considerably better than other products on the market. This is actually a really cool slide because, and I presented this slide before because it's powerful in that it shows some of what ProArgi does that other products don't do. First, you get this very large Cmax. That's the increase in nitric oxide using salivary nitrites as a surrogate marker. We can see there's this almost instantaneous or very quick increase in nitrites or nitric oxide in the body, but then we see a second increase in nitric oxide in the body, and that's from like 90 to 120 minutes, where most of the products don't really have anything going on at that point. We get a second increase, and the reason why we get a second increase is because this was formulated with a specific ratio of L-arginine to L-citrulline. And this kickstarts the body's ability to recycle L-arginine, which is actually really cool because if I'm taking L-arginine and I want to have a prolonged effect from that L-arginine, I want it to be in my system. I want this urea cycle to get activated. That's that cycle that's converting citrulline and another amino acid, ornithine, back into L-arginine. So that kickstarts that urea cycle so that as I'm using L-arginine, I'm resynthesizing L-arginine via the addition of citrulline. So because of that, we get this secondary bump in nitric oxide, and we get this prolonged effect of ProArgi as well. So if I were to take, if I were to take a very simple nitric oxide producing product, like a simple, not talking about Pro 360 beets, just a simple beet product that's just beets, I'm going to get a spike and then nothing afterwards, and it's going to be very short-lived. If I'm taking just an L-arginine product and it's not formulated the way that ProArgi is, I might get a little bit of a later spike, but it's still going to go away and it's not going to last as long. Because of the way this is formulated, and there's some other components as well, but the key thing really here is this ratio of arginine to citrulline. You get a significantly prolonged effect because you're priming the body to resynthesize L-arginine from the urea cycle. So it's really cool that theoretically it should work that way, but it actually does based on our experimental data. I wanted to put this this slide on here. This is kind of an old slide, but it's something that I think is really important. This is a press release that Nature Sunshine did way back in the day, talking about studies that showed reduction in lipid oxidation, studies that showed myeloperoxidase inhibition. This is that enzyme that oxidizes not just nitric oxide, but other things. It's an oxidizing enzyme. When myeloperoxidase is active, it can oxidize things, including it leads to oxidized lipids. And oxidized lipids are actually quite unhealthy. People used to really focus on cholesterol levels as a marker of health. HDL cholesterol is still considered a marker of health. You should have high enough HDL. LDL cholesterol really isn't considered a marker of health anymore because there's no real correlation between high LDL cholesterol and cardiovascular outcomes. But what there is a correlation between oxidized cholesterol and cardiovascular outcomes. There is correlations between something like the triglyceride HDL ratio that is important as far as cardiovascular outcomes. But as far as these oxidized lipids go, they're really important as far as cardiovascular disease. When we have a relatively unhealthy diet and we have relatively sedentary behavior, we have very poor blood flow in general throughout our body. We're also consuming foods that tend to be oxidizing in nature. We're over consuming processed foods, sugar, under consuming fibers. This is kind of, in my opinion, the underlying cause for the vast majority of non-communicable diseases right now is just simple lifestyle things, but they're very hard to avoid having problems in those areas just because of the prevalence of processed food, because we're so busy. It's hard to have exercise. It's hard to have uh, uh, time and um, convenient. It's not convenient to prepare healthy meals. People don't prepare meals anymore very often. They go out and they buy processed stuff, and we end up with a very high load of oxidative stress in our body. We end up with uh, a lot of glycation in our body, which is sugars being oxidized and attaching to proteins. We end up with a lot of unhealthy situations where our lipids are becoming oxidized. And when our lipids are oxidized, we end up in a situation where they become sticky. When cholesterol is oxidized, it no longer functions as cholesterol should. Cholesterol's job is to carry fatty acids throughout our bloodstream. Fat and water don't really mix very well. That's something that pretty much everybody knows. If I take salad dressing, oil and vinegar, they don't mix. The same thing is true with the fat in my body that I want to be able to use for energy. It won't mix with the water in my blood. So I have cholesterol whose entire job it is to shuttle fat throughout my body and to make it usable, basically. Unfortunately, when I get oxidized cholesterol and oxidized lipids that are floating around through my bloodstream, they become sticky. And whenever I have an area in my bloodstream, an area that tends to be the branched areas that slows down the blood flow, those sticky oxidized lipids, sticky oxidized cholesterol, they tend to start to accumulate. So that's one of the main reasons why people start to have this buildup of plaques in their arteries, is because of this oxidized cholesterol. This is a really bad thing. And L-arginine on its own doesn't really do much as far as preventing oxidation of cholesterol. It's not the L-arginine, it's not the L-citrulline that's in there. It's some of these other molecules that are in there. We talked about the importance of this ADMA to arginine ratio. We talked about the importance of myeloperoxidase, MPO. We were able to demonstrate that proarginine actually inhibits MPO, reduces oxidative stress, reduces the likelihood of oxidation of our cholesterol and our lipids. And this is a big deal because, one, it makes this a better product as far as overall cardiovascular health. And this is these other ingredients in there, the things like the pomegranate, the things like the grape skin, even things like just the vitamin C, the vitamin and mineral panel, or the vitamin panel that's in there. They work together to inhibit myeloperoxidase, to prevent oxidation. And one thing this does, it actually prolongs the life of the nitric oxide, which is good because we want that blood flow happening longer. The second thing, it prevents the conversion of nitric oxide to nitration of other molecules, oxidation of other molecules via MPO. So we're shutting off that negative pathway that can happen if I have excessively excessively high state of oxidative stress in my body. We're shutting off that pathway that leads to negative side effects of creating nitric oxide. And we're turning on all the positive pathways in an even stronger way. So proarginine, because of these other components, because of these other uh, added ingredients that might seem like they're not doing a whole lot. I mean, when I first looked at this product, I've told this story before, I thought, hey, I could make it better, and I wasn't really understanding the role of some of these uh, supporting ingredients, the grape skin, the resveratrol from the grape skin, the grape seed extract, the pomegranate, the why the vitamin D, why the B vitamins, all these things work together to make it a really complete formula. It's not just an L-arginine formula. L-arginine on its own is, if you look at the studies, I mean, there is almost miraculous studies on L-arginine, just the ingredient L-arginine, in terms of what it does for cardiovascular health. ProArginine it has L-arginine, a significant amount, 5 grams per serving, but it's so much more than just L-arginine. It is the most complete formula in terms of how it was developed, its overall impact, uh, that I've come across. It's a beautiful formula. It really, I get all excited about it. I mean, for me, this type of a formula where every component is working together in synergy, it's beautiful. It really, truly is. I mean, this is what I strive to create. A product like this, as a formulator, as a scientist, I can truly appreciate the beauty of how all the pieces are working together. And that's what I want you guys to kind of get an idea of with L-arginine. It is the sum of all the parts. If you want somebody to do research on L-arginine on its own, they will be convinced they should be taking L-arginine after they've done a little research. If you can tell them the story of why all of these bits and pieces are working together to make proarginine a truly superior product, a truly superior formulation, then they're going to start coming back and saying, okay, this is what I need, this proarginine. I'm going to try this, and I can compare it to other products. We already know it enhances blood flow better than other products on the market. This is just oxidative stress fighting capacity. This is really important when you're talking about total body health. One of the main problems that we have, again, because of our diet, because of our lifestyle, lack of exercise, we have this huge overabundance of oxidative stress in our body. This causes problems. We have excess inflammation in our gut. We have all these digestive problems. It becomes a major, major issue. I mentioned this vitamin blend that's in there. Just the D3K, vitamin D and vitamin K work together. If you have somebody that's just not feeling very good, a lot of times, if you give them vitamin D and vitamin K together, they will almost immediately start feeling better because, one, they work together. Two, vitamin D is one of the few things that people are actually deficient in as far as vitamins in the modern world. We add vitamins to a lot of things, but we don't get outside in the sun. I mean, I haven't been to, Spain and south of France where there's actually sun. But I've been to the UK and there isn't a whole lot of sun there. So even if you're outside, there's a lot of clouds. You're not getting a whole lot of vitamin D synthesis. Vitamin D is actually naturally produced in the body in response to being exposed to the sun. When I was a kid, I used to go outside. I used to go fishing. I probably had great high vitamin D levels. Now I sit in an office. I've got my tinted windows and my screen, and if the sun's too bright, it annoys me because I can't see my computer screen. That's kind of the way my life has evolved from playing outside to spending most of my time indoors working. When I drive home, it's dark. So I'm not getting enough vitamin D naturally. I need to be supplementing with it. It has a huge impact on immune health. It has a huge impact on mood, emotional health, energy, all of these things. This is another reason why when I take this product, I feel it immediately, just because I'm probably deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin C is critical for blood flow. It also is it has multiple mechanisms by which it enhances blood flow. B6 and B12 are very important for um, mitochondrial function, for the Krebs cycle, for producing energy within the body, for producing ATP in the body. So all of these things are working together to truly make proarginine work better itself. I mentioned immune function. There's another pathway in our body uh, that nitric oxide is used in. There's actually two other ones. There's one that's involved in the CNS and one that's involved in immune function. And having arginine that can interact with inos can actually help with our immune function. That's cells that basically produce not huge, but high concentrations of nitric oxide in a very localized area to actually use as a weapon. Because I mentioned before, nitric oxide is actually kind of an unstable oxidizing molecule. That's one of the reasons why, if we don't have a good easily oxidized molecule, we don't have a good balance of oxidative stress in our body, it becomes a more fleeting molecule, even more fleeting than it already is. Well, our white blood cells actually use it as a weapon against bacteria, and they can kill bacteria. As far as gut health, and this is one I really, man, I could talk an hour about gut health, the importance of gut health, how proarginine actually impacts gut health, and why that's important for the function of proarginine. The thing that I really want you guys to think about is when I have excess inflammation, especially excess inflammation in my gut, I have 500% more arginase activity in my gut. Arginase is an enzyme that breaks down L-arginine. By having these other molecules that reduce oxidative stress, by taking L-arginine, even just L-arginine on a regular basis. There's studies that show L-arginine reduces inflammation in the gut, helps balance inflammation in the gut, helps support barrier function with the gut because you're getting more energy to these cells that line the gut epithelium of the gut. Your gut becomes more healthy over time. And this is one of the reasons why if I take L-arginine on day one, I'm going to feel it. It's going to be great for me. But if I take it for a week, it's going to be even better. If I take it for a month, it's going to be even better. If I take it for a year, my health is going to be totally transformed. It really is. It is a cardiovascular health product. Yes, that is the foundation of this product, but it also impacts gut health. It also impacts inflammation. It also impacts oxidative stress. And each time I'm bringing my body back into balance, I am protecting the arginine that I'm consuming by reducing arginase activity. I am reducing that other molecule that interrupts the effect of L-arginine and doesn't allow it to produce nitric oxide. So all of these things work together to make proarginine better every time I use it. Nitric oxide has many, this is just kind of the summary. Nitric oxide, many benefits to the body. This is just nitric oxide. I truly believe that proarginine is unique in the way that it builds health, allows for nitric oxide to be produced in a way that gives you a longer duration, but also the more I take it, the better nitric oxide is produced. So I'm producing more nitric oxide. It's in my system for longer. I'm creating higher levels of nitric oxide for longer just by taking proarginine. And the reason I'm doing that is because it helps with immune health. It helps with cardiovascular health. It helps with, it has cardioprotective effects, cardiovascular recovery effects, and it improves physical performance. I mean, it is a truly powerful product. And boy, I have been a little frustrated lately with I guess regulations and podcasts and all sorts of things about people talking about well, let's start out with regulations. We had a great new change to ProArgi that gave it this great new packaging and great new label. And it's the same ProArgi that it's always been, but all of a sudden it has sugar. And man, this is frustrating because why do we make it harder on ourselves? And sometimes we just make things harder on ourselves. Why should we have to explain it does have sugar, but it's not bad sugar, it's good sugar? And I'm going to explain that, but I'm also going to try and correct the problem with the packaging so that it doesn't say sugar anymore, so that it says exactly what sugar it is, so that we don't have to make this explanation. But for now, I want you guys to have this explanation. What is sugar? Um, Sugar is a lot of different molecules. And that's the problem, is when people think of sugar, they think of the white stuff that they put on their cereal in the morning. They don't think of sugar as a class of molecules, a class of carbohydrates. These sugars, all of these are sugars, and this is one way of drawing them. It's the chain form. It makes it really easy to see that they're related molecules, and they're called regioisomers. Basically, the arrangement of the bonds is different. The arrangement of the functional groups is different, but the formula is exactly the same. The molecular formula for all these is the same. The basic structure is the same, and they're all sugars. Interestingly, they have slightly different functions in the body. Even these 6-carbon sugars that all look very, very similar. If I look at fructose, for example, fructose is the sugar that's found in fruit. Our body is meant to eat fruit. We convert fructose to glucose really easy. Glucose is the sugar that our body uses. We don't generally eat a whole lot of pure glucose. Most of what we're eating are other sugars. It might be something like sucrose, which is table sugar. That's actually a dimer. It's 2 different sugar molecules put together. Or it might be something like fructose, which is the natural monosaccharide that is found in fruits. And our body's great at converting it to glucose. Some of these sugars, our body actually isn't very good at converting to glucose. So something like this D-psychose, I don't know how to pronounce that one. I don't know. I know it by a different name. It's called allulose now. Allulose is one of those things that's being used in the supplement industry because, yeah, it's a sugar. It's a 6-carbon sugar. It looks almost exactly the same as fructose, but my body can't process it. It doesn't really get any calories from it. Tagatose is another one. My body can't really process it. It doesn't really get calories from it. So the arrangement of the bonds in sugars is very, very important. That's something that you guys should know. It's not just all sugar is bad. It is certain sugars can be bad, or certain sugars consumed in excess are bad. Now, let's get to D-ribose. D-ribose is the added sugar that's in L-arginine. It's frustrating to me from a science perspective that it was ever put on here for as a sugar. I mean, it is a sugar. It's a monosaccharide. The regulation technically says that any added mono or disaccharide needs to be put on the label as sugar. We're just going to label it what it is. It's D-ribose. D-ribose is a sugar, but it is not even close to the same as glucose or sucrose or these other caloric sugars that we're eating. The interesting thing with D-ribose is my body has multiple mechanisms put in place to prevent its use as energy. It is critical in terms of structure. It is part of the composition of ATP, which is our energy molecule. It's part of the composition of really more RNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, so one of the OHs is gone, but it still starts out from ribose. It's critical in the creation of these base pairs that are used in DNA. It's critical in NAD, NADH formation. These are kind of the energy currency of our body. So D-ribose is really, really, really important for energy function in our body. That's really one of the most important things. It's kind of the energy currency in our body. That the main molecule in energy recovery, ATP, NADH, NADH. These are the electron transfer molecules that help with oxidation and reduction in our body naturally. It's not metabolized like glucose. It does not create energy. Doesn't create a blood sugar spike. Interestingly, so back in the day, we used to have a claim on ProArgi saying uh, helps maintain blood sugar in a normal range for people whose blood sugar is already in a normal range. That's a really long claim. It's a true claim, but it's really long and really clunky. Uh, and I don't think it sounds very good from a catchy phrase perspective. But the reason why it helps maintain healthy blood sugar is actually because of the D-ribose in part. If I were to consume sugar with D-ribose, it actually lowers the glycemic index of the sugar that I'm consuming it with. It's actually really interesting. And the reason is my body tastes the sugar, it gets ready to digest sugar because D-ribose is sweet. But then my body diverts it away from that energy creation and diverts it towards structural function of D-ribose. That means that my body has prepped itself for getting sugar into its system, and there's no sugar there. So if I take D-ribose, especially if I'm somebody that is sensitive to low blood sugar, if I take D-ribose on its own, it can actually cause my blood sugar levels to become dangerously low in some cases if I took a lot of it. So it doesn't create a blood sugar spike. It's not like sugar. It is a molecule that is critically important for many aspects of structure in my body, of creating new molecules in my body, creating molecules that are specifically associated with energy, specifically associated with my DNA, with my RNA, the purines that are in my the base pairs of my DNA. These are actually created from D-ribose as a building block. It's super important with in terms of heart health. There's a reason why it's in the formula. It's not just sugar. It is a sugar that's critically important for heart health in terms of recovery from injury. So if I have some sort of an injury, some sort of damage to any muscle in my body, but to my heart, it can actually help it recover. It has studies around it showing benefit from chronic fatigue, impaired cellular energy. Basically, chronic fatigue is one of those things where your body doesn't produce energy as it should. It can help your body fix that. So D-ribose is a very important molecule that actually improves the function of proarginine. And yes, it's a sugar. But again, what I want to do and what we're working to do, what we're pushing to do is to, instead of saying sugar on the label, just D-ribose. And that will hopefully solve the problem. But that being said, it is a powerful molecule that is helping the function of the product. It is not added sugar in the sense that most people would think of as added sugar. And this slide, I mean, it's kind of one of those slides. I was going to hide this slide and I decided not to. The only reason this slide is on here is because there are a lot of different instances where glucose 6-phosphate is not functioning well in people's bodies, especially with lifestyle, metabolic diseases, things like that. Glucose 6-phosphate is an enzyme that is necessary for the conversion of glucose eventually downstream into ribose. We need ribose. It's important for our bodies to function, and a lot of people have trouble creating it from the glucose that they're consuming. So supplementing with D-ribose can have some very, very beneficial effects. And this is where you're starting to get to some of those cardioprotective, cardiovascular recovery type effects that we talked about. It's very, very important, and we should be supplementing with D-ribose, and that's the reason why it's in ProArgi. So this formula, as I said before, it is truly a beautiful formula. It works together in many different ways. It is first and foremost an L-arginine based formula that enhances blood flow, but each individual component builds on that to create something that is much more. It impacts immune health. It impacts gut health. It impacts oxidative stress within the body. It does contain sugar, but it's not the kind of sugar that causes blood sugar spikes. It is a structural sugar. And again, we need to work to get that off of the package, and we're going to work to do that for you guys. That's one of my priorities to get that done. It is an amazing product for sport performance. If you have not tried this in terms of sport performance, go out there, do some weightlifting, do some running, whatever. You will feel the difference with this product. It is an amazing product. And I know there have been some questions. Uh, let's go ahead and get to some of these questions.
Okay, Mike, can you see them in the chat? Because there are quite a few. Do you want me to go through them, or shall I let you go through them? There's some in the chat. Do you know what I would ask, folks? Because I know some of you popped them in earlier. Can you just do a quick copy and paste so that we can see them here now? Mike, whilst that's happening, there are some bits in the Q&A. You've covered some of it already. Maybe we could start there. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sure. Like Lucinda asked, is there a reason we only have citrus berry ProArgi, not the others that are available in the US? The biggest reason is most likely just a sales volume reason. You don't want to divide across multiple SKUs if there's not the sales volume to reach to make it worthwhile, I guess. So I would love to see more flavors of ProArgi. I'd love to create new flavors of ProArgi for specifically the European market. I would love to create flavors specifically for the European market of all of our products. So yeah, help me out with that, please. Um, uh, let's see some of the questions that just got. How long before sport activity should it be taken? Okay, so for me, I take it about a half an hour. If you looked at that graph, the peak for the NO, the nitric oxide in the body is about 60 minutes, and then it lasts for quite a while, for like 2 hours. So for me, I take it about a half an hour before, and then by the time I'm done with my warm-ups, when I'm really getting to where I want to be at that peak, that's where I am. So about a half an hour into my workout, I'm hitting the peak of arginine or nitric oxide performance. ProArgi and fasting. You need to explain a little further on that question, Robert. I'm not sure if you are talking about, does it have a blood sugar spike? Is it okay with intermittent fasting, or what the question is? If you give me a little bit more on that. I'll assume that you're asking about intermittent fasting. There shouldn't be any significant blood sugar spike with ProArgi. And in fact, because of the D-ribose, it can actually help. It won't affect blood sugar. It's not going to increase in any significant way. It's almost non-nutritive, the entire formula. You're looking at amino acids that are isolated, that are not being used for energy, that are being used for production of uh, nitric oxide in the body. You're looking at D-ribose, which is a structural molecule. You're looking at phytonutrients that all have different effects in the body that don't really have any sort of a nutrient value. So you're not going to get any. It basically would be, from a nutritive perspective, as though you're still fasting. Ingredient source of the arginine used in the product. This is actually a pretty cool story, because we do use a unique and specific arginine in ProArgi, and you can actually see the difference. If I look at a typical L-arginine product, it's going to be a fine powder. If I look at ProArgi, I'm getting these larger particle size, rod-shaped particles, and that does a couple of different things. It changes the kinetic solubility so that it gets into my system almost in a time release type of a way, as opposed to like all at once. It also prevents things like clumping, things like if I take a typical L-arginine, put it in a humid area, it's going to turn into a brick basically. So having that larger particle size reduces the chance of that happening. It also helps us with manufacturing a more consistent product. So there's a lot of things that go into why we're using a more expensive specific type of L-arginine. But the bottom line is it just works better. And because it works better and we have a better product with it, we're going to keep using that L-arginine. Okay.
Okay, I'm just looking because I've just put whilst you've been talking, Mike, I've put in the chat. I've got a little bit of something to do once you've finished your questions.
Okay, I'll do one more question, and then I'll let you get to your other really exciting stuff because it is
You're
exciting. It
fine.
really is.
I only need a
Um,
few minutes.
so the last question I'm going to answer: can you take it at the same time as beets and greens in a smoothie? And yes, you can absolutely. I generally, when I take ProArginine, am consuming it with another product. I'll mix it with E9. I'll mix it with beets. I'll mix it with beets and greens. Um, and it kind of depends on what I'm using it for. If I'm using it for a pre-workout, oftentimes I'll mix it with either E9 or beets, and it kind of depends on um, the time of day that I'm taking it. If I'm working out or taking it later on in the evening, then I'm going to mix it with something else that's not E9. I'll mix it with like my beets or my greens. If I'm exercising in the morning, I'll take it with my E9 because I think I get kind of the best pre-workout bang for my buck there. Um, Honestly, I'm a little bit lucky, so I have the opportunity to take these products for significant discount because I work for the company. So I tend to take a lot of these products. I mean, my goal is to be a product of these products. I want to improve my health using these products because I know the value of these products. So I'm taking oftentimes 3 or 4 products together, and there's no issues with taking pro-arginine, beets, greens all together. And yes, you can take them 2 times a day. You could take it 3 times a day if you wanted to. It just gets to be a little bit expensive. I'm a 2 times a day kind of a person. Uh, I like to take my pro-arginine twice a day. It's had some big effects. That combination with beets has dramatically affected my own personal cardiovascular health, my blood pressure especially, has been dramatically improved by ProArginine and the Pro 360 beats.